Good evening, this is Tacks. I'm Zakka Jacob. The word secular was not added in the preamble of the Constitution by the makers of the Indian Constitution. It was much later, back in 1976, a full 30 years after independence, that Mrs. Gandhi added that word. Secular comes from the French word, which in the strict sense of the term means separation between church and state. The state cannot have anything to do with any religion, and neither can it be seen as giving special treatment to one religion over another. So that brings us to what's happening in Jharkhand. At least it started off in Jharkhand, now it's spreading to Uttar Pradesh. How and why should a Namaz room be added to the assembly building? The assembly or the parliament, the legislature, is the temple of democracy. The only job there is to make bills. Why should there be a room there for the personal faith or the display or the articulation of personal faith, and that too of people of one religion? Like I said, it started in Jharkhand, now it is spread to Uttar Pradesh. Is this secular or is this appeasement? That's the question we're asking tonight on Brass Tacks, but first the story.
जब दल के पास कोई मुद्दे नहीं रह जाते हैं ना, तो इसी तरीके का आचरण अपनाकर सदन को बाधित करने का उनका पहले से ही प्लान है।
तमाम इंटरनेशनल डोमेस्टिक एयरपोर्ट पे गए होंगे, जाना होता भी होगा, और तमाम लोग हैं जो सफ़र करते रहते हैं, वहाँ पे एक छोटा सा प्रेयर रूम बना है जहाँ लोग जाते हैं, अपनी इबादत करते हैं और आगे चल देते हैं। तो अगर वो लोग वहाँ पे जाके भगवान को प्रार्थना करेंगे, अपनी बात करेंगे, तो उसमें क्या हर्ज है?
असल में ये सब कहीं ना कहीं तालिबानी सोच से बहुत इंस्पायर हो रहे लोग हैं। देश की संसद या विधानसभा की गरिमा को भूल जाते हैं।
हमें बीजेपी को जबरदस्ती मुसलमानों का नाम जब आता है, ये पोलराइज करते हैं और इनको लगता है कि ये जो है मुसलमानों का नाम लेकर ही इस देश में राजनीति करना चाहते हैं।
No place for a namaz room inside a state assembly. Like I said, we are a secular state. It's enshrined in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. It follows the secular doctrine, which means the state cannot be identified with any particular religion. Now, which also means that parliament or assemblies, state legislatures, they are defined as the state. No religious activity is allowed inside these buildings, where even if it is personal display of faith, it cannot be allowed inside a building that is an organ of the state. Religious interventions via the Constitution's ideals are absolutely uncalled for. The assembly speakers are bound by the Constitution just as much as the Speaker of the Lok Sabha is bound by the Constitution, or the presiding officer in the Rajya Sabha is bound by the Constitution. So you can't have this double standard by saying that if the state is secular, then there is simply no place for any religion, any religious activity, any religious display, no matter whether it is Muslim, Hindu, Christian. No religion has place inside a state building. And that is the demand that's arisen in Uttar Pradesh. Of course, this has happened after what happened in Jharkhand, where the CM has announced that there will be a namaz room inside the state assembly. Joining me on the talking point this evening, Ilyas Sharafuddin is an Islamic scholar. Dr. Zeenat Shaukat Ali is Director General of the Wisdom Foundation. Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson of the BJP, and Kailash Adhikari, Political Analyst and Managing Director of Governance Now. Mr. Sharafuddin, let me start with you. I just outlined, how the word secular was added to the Indian Constitution back in 1976. Now, if you go by the definition of secular, then no state building, whether it is assembly, secretariat, parliament, no state building should have any display of religion. So why should there be a namaz room for one particular religion inside a state assembly complex?
Jacob, actually this particular rule was first broken by ruling party, then by the opposition, and many a times by others. When Prime Minister went and did the puja before the Central Vista work starts in Delhi by breaking the lockdown, from there this precedence has started that why not worship in the place of assembly and parliament. And fortunately enough, we in Hyderabad, in Secretariat, we have masajid, in Assembly we have masajid, before the assembly and secretariat started. Since then it is there. Likewise, at many other places it is there already, or it is going to come up. That's a different story. But when secularism does not allow all this, why Modi have done that? And at many other places at the state's exchequer, you have seen that.
The state assembly building is an organ of the state. The state cannot be seen as promoting one religion or favoring one religion. The state cannot have a namaz room inside the state assembly. That is not the same thing as somebody going for a function or breaking a coconut before before a puja. That's not the same thing.
It is not going for a function. The parliament building foundation laystone was there, and Modi was doing a puja for parliament.
Sir, how,
so when he is breaking the rules of the parliament itself, do you think the states are going to follow it?
How is that equating with an organ of the state having a separate room for just one religion?
You said that no religious worship should take place within the building, state building.
Tomorrow some
then
people will say,
why for the parliament building a puja is being done? Why not the namaz over there?
Assembly के अंदर आप गुरुद्वारा बना दो, आप church
अरे
बना
भैया
दो.
parliament
Where will you stop?
Construction is puja से शुरू कर रहे हैं.
Let's disband assemblies. Let's only have religious places inside assembly complexes.
Oh my God.
क्यों चाहिए?
मैं यही बोल रहा हूँ, मोदी रूल क्यों ब्रेक करे पूजा करके?
सर, आप क्या बात कर रहे हैं? One is a function, okay? The other is an organ of the state, a building of the state that represents the state.
For what? For building a parliament building.
Sanju Verma.
Modi have a lawbreaker and
Sanju Verma respond. I don't think the analogy is correct, but please respond, Sanju Verma, the spokesperson of the BJP, to the point that Mr. Sharafuddin is making.
Yeah. Zakka, I think let's be very clear. Why the 42nd Amendment of 1976, as you rightly mentioned in your introduction, the word secular was added to the preamble of the Constitution, which in layman terms simply means that the state has no religion. Besides, of course, in no uncertain terms, underlining the fact that all religions are equal in the eyes of the law without any discrimination whatsoever.
Yeah.
Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi laying the foundation of Ram Janmabhoomi or reading out from the Hanuman Chalisa, during the foundation ceremony of the
Central Vista Parliament
are completely two different things. From having a namaz room in the assembly.
How come? Why the hell a puja has been done over there? Why? By going against Vedas, Gita, Purana, Hadith and Constitution.
I've heard you
Why
enough.
there is a puja over there for parliament building?
Let me focus on what Sanju Verma is saying, please.
This is not fair.
Yeah.
Can I please say?
Sanju Verma.
Thank you, Zakka. First and foremost, Mr. Sharafuddin, listen clearly now, without heckling me. Prime Minister Narendra Modi laying the foundation stone of a new
education
building and chanting holy mantras is not the same thing as having a namaz room within the premises of the Legislative Assembly. Point number one, do not...
What a double standard and hypocrisy!
Point number two...
What a double standard and hypocrisy of top class by ruling class.
This is not fair.
No, one second. I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you. Don't be bothered by his heckling. Go on. Finish your point.
No. I need to make my point without this constant background noise because he's not pleasant to listen to. Zakka, the more important point is that
is called education for idiots.
Under Article 178 of the Constitution, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, the presiding officer of the Rajya Sabha, and the Speaker of the respective Legislative Assembly, they are given certain powers. And I think in this case, Rabindranath Mahato, the Speaker of the Jharkhand Assembly, who also happens to be a Jharkhand Mukti Morcha leader and a close confidant of Hemant Soren, I think he clearly breached the powers that are granted to him under Article 178.
Okay.
That is the more important point. And the most important point, last but not the least, there is nothing wrong in even a Hamid Ansari when he used to have these, Ramzan parties.
Iftar
parties,
yeah.
Congress leaders used to have these parties. But to have a religious room inviting people to congregate during the noon to have a namaz offering, this is stretching every
again, iftar parties are usually hosted, if Neta is hosted, are usually hosted at their residence, which is still fine, which is understandable. It's a community thing. You're trying to build some amount of fraternity that happens in the residence of the Neta concerned. Whereas, and I want to ask Dr. Zeenat Shaukat Ali, again, some people are giving this analogy, there are prayer rooms in airports all around the world. I don't think that analogy quite works. An airport, for example, let's take the Delhi airport, is managed by a private company. It's a private entity. It's up to that company, depending on what their customers want, to give or not give. Whereas a state assembly or a parliament building is an institution of the state. It's an arm of the state. That cannot be seen as having a prayer room or a namaz room only for one particular religion. Dr. Zeenat.
I've lost the sound.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Dr. Zeenat Shaukat? Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Zakka?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. I think you have a very strong point out there that when we are known as a secular democratic republic, there cannot be a separate room allotted to one religion alone. And I don't think that, religion, the separation of religion and state, and when you are conducting activities to do with the state, with state governance, and with making new laws and whatever is the function of the parliament, I do not think that, any kind of room can be allotted to anyone. And whosoever, whether it may be from the top echelons to the ordinary person, this cannot be. Either you make room for all religions, either you have, because we are a diverse people, and if you want to do that as an exception, which I don't think you should, but if there has to be something, then it has to be for all religions or for nobody. And I do not think also that any kind of religious symbolism should be associated with the state-run building. I mean, that is my personal opinion. This kind of approach and attitude, it will give a communal flavor in the long run. It will create problems.
Tomorrow, the Hindus can ask for a temple inside the assembly. That's right. The Christians can ask for a church inside the assembly. The Sikhs can ask for a gurdwara inside the assembly.
Right.
Where will it stop? Where will it stop?
Yes.
Kailash Adhikari, what's also ironic in some senses is the Jharkhand Chief Minister, when he was asked about this, the creation of a namaz room inside the assembly complex, he said, God is omnipresent. He's present wherever you want him to be, and you can pray wherever you want to pray to him. And yet, his government has now decided to form this namaz room. So you can't have it both ways. If he's omnipresent, you don't really need a namaz room, right? You can pray wherever you find God.
I think
absolutely. Likewise, we don't need
Kailash Adhikari, I'm only listening to Kailash Adhikari. The question was to him, yeah.
Absolutely, Zakka, you are very right. And I personally believe that the parliament of the nation or the state assembly building is a place where work should be considered as worship. And I do not see any room for any place of worship to be inside that building where work has to happen, and everyone should consider their work as worship. Having said that, the party in power in Jharkhand, along with the Congress party there, sometimes forgets that under the garb of being secular, what they do is completely appeasement, which they should come to know now after 2014 and 19, which is not going down well with the majority of this country. And such acts just add a communal flavor, and they're not at all required. Yes, there is a prayer room in airports, in various airports, which I have personally seen, but then Zakka, they are prayer rooms. They are not only confined where people of one faith or for one religion can go. If you want to create a room for prayers, then a prayer room where every people from any religion can go. Firstly, I don't see the need inside a state legislative assembly building. But if that is the case, then you can have a prayer room. Otherwise, the best is consider your work as worship.
No, absolutely. And I said this again, the only job that lawmakers have, the only job that should happen inside a state assembly or a parliament is to pass laws. Other than that, why should there be anything else, any other activity happening inside that complex? So, Ilyas Sharafuddin, again, it's a very, very simple criteria, sir. Like I said, tomorrow, Hindus can ask for a temple, Christians can ask for a church, Buddhists can ask for their temple, and so on and so forth. I mean, where will this stop? The whole business and the meaning of having a parliament or an assembly will be lost. People will just come and display their faith there.
Yeah, yes, I fully agree with you. Parliament and state buildings in the democratic setup, the state assemblies, are meant to solve the problems of oxygen, jobs, unemployment, economic revival, and so on. So they should keep on working on that, unfortunately, which is not happening since last 7 years under BJP rule. But I would like to say again that a single namaz room is creating a hue and cry throughout India. Why not the Bhumi Puja and mantras chanted by Modi for parliament?
Sir,
why the hell he had broken the law?
How are you,
why not
again,
in the garb
how
of
are
criminalism?
you
Why is spreading in the
equating
garb
a
of criminalism
of
this
a
particular
temple by a
idea
private
of worshipping
trust?
inside the parliament?
The
Why?
function of a temple by a private trust, whoever went there, chanting the mantra there, how is that being equated to having a building, inside the temple of democracy?
I didn't know that Modi have privatized parliament also.
Sir, the Ram Janmabhoomi,
I didn't know that he has sold the parliament
foundation
also.
stone laying
I'm talking about
ceremony that you are
parliament
referring
construction.
to
May I come in?
is a
May I
temple owned
she's
by the
heckling
Ram
me.
Janmabhoomi
She's
Trust,
not listening. Tell her
for
to
which
have
the
some
Prime
manners.
Minister was invited,
Tell her
and
to
he
have
went.
some manners. She's heckling me. and
Mr.
disturbing me.
Sharafuddin, Mr.
BJP
Sharafuddin,
spokesperson should have
I'm
manners.
asking you a
Should
simple
not be
question.
mannerless.
I'm asking
Should
you a
not be
simple
heckling
question,
others.
sir.
Now listen carefully.
No, one second.
Why
Mr. Sharafuddin,
a
Mr.
state
Sharafuddin.
Parliament is having
Mr.
a
Sharafuddin.
function of Bhumi Puja.
Tomorrow,
Why chanting
tomorrow,
Why worshipping
one
creation?
second,
Why
sir.
going to hell?
Sir,
Why
tomorrow,
going against the Constitution, Vedas, Gita, Puranas? Why?
if you go to one of the countries in the Muslim world and ask inside their parliament building, you to go and tell them, we want a temple. How do you think they're going to respond?
We will say don't do things against Vedas, Gita.
No.
Don't worship
You
the
think
creations
they're
and go
going
to
to
hell.
build a temple?
Don't worship
inside their
animals,
parliament
humans,
building?
stones, statues
Good luck,
and go
good
to hell.
luck, good
Vedas,
luck, good
Gita,
luck with
Sri
that.
Ram, Sri Krishna
Good
against
luck
it.
with that.
We will educate the people.
Sanju,
We will
educate the people
the
about
Hindus.
what?
We will educate
What do
Modi
you
and
want to
Nisha and
educate the
everyone.
people about?
We will tell them don't worship creation and go to hell.
Sanju
It is
Verma.
against the commands of Sri Ram, Sri Krishna, Allah, Rasulullah. It is against the
Sanju
religious
Verma.
scriptures of Islam and Hinduism. We tell them.
Sir, your religion is confined to your house or your place of worship. Your religion
My
has nothing to
religion
do
is
with the
confined
state.
to the whole universe. And it is not my religion. Religion from
It
only
has
creator
nothing
Allah.
to do with the
It is
state.
confined to the whole
Please get
universe.
this straight.
Because it is from the
Please
only
get
creator
this
Allah.
straight. Your religion or my religion or
religion
Sanju
is not
Verma's
my
religion
personal property,
has
not
nothing
your
to do with the
property.
state.
It is something
This is your
sent by
personal
the
affair.
creator.
आपके घर के अंदर कीजिए या मस्जिद के अंदर कीजिए
अरे भाई
पार्लियामेंट
अंदर
बिल्डिंग के
करेंगे,
अंदर
घर के
नहीं
बाहर करेंगे, सारी कायनात में
वर्मा।
करेंगे। कायनात के रब ने हुक्म दिया है।
संजू
कुरान, हदीस,
वर्मा।
वेदा, गीता, उपनिषद में हुक्म है।
I'm sorry.
एक मालिक की पूजा
I'm
करो,
sorry.
करिए।
The business of the
दूसरों की
state
मत
is the
करो,
business
मत
of the
करिए।
state.
पार्लियामेंट की बिल्डिंग के
The
वक्त
business of
करे
the
मोदी।
state is the business of the state. No God is bigger than that. Sanju Verma.
Zakka, this man made a personal comment. Yes, sir, you have all the manners in the world and we just saw how you spoke to a lady. So stop giving me a bhashan about how mannerless I am or not. I don't need your certificate. आपका certificate अपने घर में रखिए. पहली बात ये. दूसरी बात, I want to say one thing loud and clear again, Zakka. What the Jharkhand speaker is trying to do by saying that we will have a namaz room is against the spirit of the constitution, is against Article 178, which determines the power that the speaker enjoys. It is against Article 27 and 28, which talk about differentiation between the religion of an individual and the state, saying, as you rightly said, that the state should not have any religion.
Okay.
State is religionless. And most importantly, it is against established convention. आज बोल रहे हो नमाज रूम रखना चाहिए. Tomorrow you will say at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. in the afternoon, we want to read out Azan in the Legislative Assembly. Tomorrow somebody else will say, I want to sing Har Har Mahadev. Somebody else will say, मेरे को किरपान लेकर घुसना है पार्लियामेंट के अंदर. So this is setting a dangerous precedent. And I think people like Ilyas Sharafuddin I
Okay.
can say, let
Kailash,
us not have division,
Kailash,
polarization
I'll give you
institutions go.
the final word, Kailash. Again, one of the arguments
Like
being
you
put
people.
forth. One of
We
the
respect
only
sisters.
Kailash Adhikari, please.
We teach
My
them
question is to
manners.
him. I've got the last minute. I'm giving him the last word. Some proponents of this move are saying, you know, if some temples can be run in this country by state governments, which in itself is a very debatable move, but if some states can run temples, then why not have a namaz room inside a state assembly? How do you respond to that?
Both are very different things, Zakka. Running a temple by a state as a trust or by some different trust is a completely different concept than having a namaz room inside a state legislative assembly building. Creating a temple or creating a masjid is creating a place of worship. You cannot compare that with creating a room within a legislative assembly building where it is not supposed to be.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And I agree. I agree with what Kailash Adhikari has said. This is an absolutely not required move, as it were, by the Jharkhand government. And now that it's happened there, the demand is spread to Uttar Pradesh as well, where clearly the media advisor to the chief minister has clearly said that this is not going to happen in Uttar Pradesh. It's certainly not going to happen as long as Yogi Adityanath is in power. So let's move on to the other part that we're focusing here on brass tacks. The Taliban has finally announced its caretaker government. In fact, Mullah Muhammad Hassan Akhund will be the head of the Council of Ministers. Sirajuddin Haqqani has been appointed as the Interior Minister. He will have to share that post with Al-Hajj Khalifa. Mullah Amir Khan Muttaqi has been appointed as the Foreign Minister. Sher Mohammad Stanekzai will serve as a Deputy Foreign Minister. In fact, CNN News 18 was the first to bring you all the big names of the new Taliban regime. Namaz Siddiqui, our Foreign Affairs Editor, with more details. What's the big picture in this cabinet composition?
First of all, even though this is an interim government or a caretaker government, this doesn't look to be inclusive at all because there are only Taliban leaders largely included in this, and the Taliban had promised the world, or rather claimed, that they will make an inclusive and a representative government, which will include other political leaders as well, indicating to Dr. Abdullah and Hamid Karzai as well. They have not found a mention here, and our investigations editor Manoj Gupta had told us that they will be excluded at least from the first caretaker government and are unlikely to get any position even when the cabinet is expanded. What we see here is a clear imprint of the fact that Pakistan has a hold on Taliban, and it appears to be reflecting in the government as well, because we are seeing some sort of a compromise candidate being made the head of the Council of Ministers, that is Muhammad Hassan Akhund, and that is because of the fact that a strong personality from either of the factions which were at friction, that is the southern Taliban, the original Taliban coming from Kandahar, and the eastern Taliban, they wouldn't have been amenable to the idea of a stronger leader coming to the picture as the top leader. So we are seeing all of them being accommodated, but at a lower position, and Mullah Hassan taking the lead as the head of the Council of Ministers.
All right, Namaz Siddiqui, we'll leave it at that. We'll see if this government, with its contradictions, inherent contradictions, when you would say, whether it can pull along and how far it can pull along. That's a wrap. I'll catch you again tomorrow night, same time. Good night.